Hey there, and welcome to another episode of the Hold On Guys podcast. This is one of your hosts, Roy of Royce of Streams. You can find my information by typing in Royce of Streams into any major social media outlet, such as Linktree, Facebook, and Instagram. Additionally, you can find out more information about this podcast by going to holdonguys.com. If you're listening to the podcast, please give us a like and subscribe to continue to receive notification on future episodes. You can find us wherever you're listening to us now or wherever the major podcast hosting sites are, including but not limited to Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, and YouTube Music. I want to give a quick shout out to Music for Makers for allowing us to use their music before and after our show. Now sit back, relax, and get ready for the chaos, laughter, and shenanigans that you've come to know and love. Welcome back to another episode of the Hold On Guys podcast. I'm your host, Roy of Royce of Streams. I'm joined today by my co-host, John. He's back again.
Hello, and good to be with you all.
Awesome. We got Jordan back again.
Howdy.
And then my wife, Katie, has joined us as well.
Hello.
Hi, Katie.
Hey,
babe. Katie and kitties in the recording room.
Kitties and kitties in the recording room.
Yep.
Very rarely do we get to see all three kitties at the same time. So we have two. One at the moment. He's always with her. So what we have a special topic for this evening. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and I just wanted to, just ask everyone, how's everyone doing? How you guys doing today?
Feels a little loaded.
It is a little loaded.
I've not had the best of current circumstances, and was aware of my mental health not being as great as it's been in the past, and actually started up with a new therapist this month. In fact, had a first kind of long intake session. And for anyone listening or my fellow hosts, co-hosts this episode, if you've done that before, it's very, it feels a bit clinical. It's like you're giving a history lesson on your own life, which feels very strange. And while I did enjoy lecture classes back when I was in high school, I do not enjoy giving them. So it's interesting to be going back in after it's been several years since I've been in therapy, and realizing some of the things I'm talking about, I do feel I've got more of a handle on than the last time I gave this, spiel, and other things that I'm like, I didn't used to put that in the forefront, and now that's very much what I'm speaking about.
So that's been go on.
Interesting to reflect on for me.
As far as reflection goes for today, and loaded questions and stuff like that, first of all, sorry, I did not mean to cue you up like that. But I fully expect to cry at least once, if not multiple times on this episode, just by what we're going to be talking about. And because it is heavy shit, and there are people out there dealing with heavy shit all the time. And I mean, like, on the topic of therapy, we just lost our insurance through a variety of circumstances. And so we've had to switch to a different carrier, and they are not as kind when it comes to mental health and what they cover and what they do not cover, what they cover, what they do cover. So, like, I have been in pretty intense therapy, like going like twice a week for quite some time, and now all of a sudden I've had to drop down to once a week. And the prospect of that, like, my therapist said, okay, I'll see you next week. Not, I'll see you in a couple days. It was, I'll see you next week. And that has hit me, like, right now it hit me, even though we had our session yesterday, it hit me right now. It's like, damn, like, I don't get to have that midweek check-in, that midweek boost, Now I got to wait a whole fucking week to get this done.
Yeah.
Whereas for me, um, I had, well, Brian knows this, but um, I had a really good therapist that I really connected with and that I adored. And for me, it's been hard to get back into therapy because having moved to a whole nother state, like it's hard to start that process all over again with someone. And especially when I had someone that I really related to and really like she understood she understood me on a level a lot of other people don't, and like I really miss her. And like I don't know if I could shout out her name, but if I could, I would. She was awesome. So I've been bouncing around trying to find someone else who I think can vibe with me.
It's hard. I grew up in therapy, and I've been in and out of it my whole life. There was a lot of growing up in a house where like my parents got divorced when I was little, and then I had a real rough time in college. And 2 years in, I realized they had free therapy sessions for students, so I signed up for that, and it was great. Then I graduated and was like, "Ooh, well, there that goes." And that dude was awesome. I got to be honest, like one of the best therapists I've ever had in my life. I got through FGCU and their mental health program they had for students, and then getting out of college immediately, getting a record contract, going on the road. I never thought anything about my mental health. It was always just on to the next show, next show, next show, next show, next show. And then when the show stopped, my whole existence just went and wow. I mean, think about running full speed into a brick wall and then doing it again and wondering why it still hurts. And it was nuts. And, I got into therapy for about a year and a half after I was divorced 5 years ago. And that was great. But that was only, limited coverage. And then I got a job that was super duper busy, super, fast paced, much like, being on tour with a band, but being on the road, driving, delivering, selling, maintaining a lot of stuff for a local craft brewery. And then, that came to a halt. I was out of work for a while, started working at another brewery, got the ball rolling, got some sweet insurance, and then that didn't work out. So it's now been trying to see what local things I can do within my means as an uninsured, self-employed professional musician slash I don't know, self-employed educator. Because every time I say an educator, people ask, "Oh, what school do you teach at?" Or what? And I'm like, "What? Private lessons, either Zoom, Skype, or my garage." Or I do have one student I go to his house. He's incredible. I can't say his name, but he's got a home studio. So half of it in my brain, I'm just going to hang out, and the other half, it's like, man, I have the environment of all environments to teach, and I like doing the house call lessons, but that's for later on the conversation. But it's been my entire life of knowing you sit down and you have someone to talk to, and this last year and a half I've noticed a lot of peaks and valleys, and it's been hard. Like I can only imagine what it's like doing, like John having another intake session for you. Like that's exhausting, that is draining. Like for Roy and Katie, for you guys to have to go and start over again. Roy, you're cutting back from 2 days a week to 1 day a week. That hurts. I remember going from weekly to bi-weekly, and that was like it was a lot of notes. It was a lot of sitting down. It was a lot of writing, reviewing, and new routines. It's one thing I think we can all agree on is like having routine, making routine, and then having to add more and find more ways to compartmentalize the day so you have your own personal checkpoints and you have your not only things to look forward to, but just ways to quote unquote get through the day. But genuinely for me, a lot of it is getting through the days, because days are really hard and I don't like being by myself.
Well, hold on, guys. How do you maintain, the week, the between sessions? How do you maintain your mental health? How do you check in with yourself? Those little checks and balances, right? What do you do to make sure that like, oh, I'm starting to spiral. Like I gotta get in to see someone. I gotta talk to my doctor. I gotta do something. What do you guys do? How do you do it? And I'll be happy to answer it first if no one has anything right off the bat.
I think for me, it's more of uh, when I notice like I'm not as interested in things, like
Mm.
what doesn't make me happy, like if um if like there's something coming up that I normally would be really happy about, but I just feel kind of blah about it. Like that's a big thing for me, especially with my depression, is if I notice like I'm just kind of existing, I know that I need to get in and I need to do more.
For myself, I find the biggest indicator is there's both disinterest, but also a boredom to things.
Mm,
Even when I am engaging in activities that I do like or that I do know
mhm,
are healthy, I find it feels like work or a job just to
mm,
do any amount of self care, any amount of um, you know business that needs done on a given day, whether that be work related or at home. And I find the biggest thing that I can do is to just briefly move out of myself and say, okay, what would a person who is not feeling bored and annoyed by everything decide to do in this moment? And try and just third person my way through what needs done, and then try and wake up and hope to start a new day where it's a little less awful in that way.
I notice. So, like, one of the things that I love to do is cook, and I think I've mentioned it a few times before on the podcast. So, like, I know that when I all of a sudden just don't want to cook for multiple days in a row or multiple meals in a row, I know that something's going on. I know that if I'm mad at the cats, like not just like oh you scratched something, oh you shame on you, but like really mad at the cats, I know something's going on. And you know, also on the flip side, there's the manic part of being bipolar. And if I'm like, you know, like, oh, I spent $400 on Amazon in 30 seconds, like, oh, we're gonna return all that shit and like take a breather, you know, like, hey, hi, Katie, something's going on. I need your help. And then, you know, I have my beautiful Katie that I can fall back on. And I know no one can see her at the moment, but like, there she is. There she is. When I set up the microphone setup, the laptop is at the lowest point, so it doesn't. You can't really see her, unfortunately. We'll
No, I'm staring into a big microphone.
we'll fix that for
We all
next
know the
time.
microphone stares right back.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep.
I had a question kind of for the group.
Mm,
For people relatively different circumstances, backgrounds, but have all four of us had to either quit therapy or find new um, therapist or change in some way completely due to
Yeah.
insurance?
Oh yeah.
I have
yeah.
on
Yeah.
multiple occasions.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
I think one of the biggest things when talking about mental health is how
Hmm.
much people talk about the importance of like personal mental health and personal um, therapy.
Hmm.
However, there is always this kind of sort of Damocles of, well, sure, and as long as you continue having the insurance to do so, it can be that helpful.
Hmm.
I find that there have been times my therapy has almost been more destructive because it was then taken away to change of life conditions with COVID, change
Hmm.
of employment, turning 26 and being
Hmm.
off of my parents' insurance. How have you all, when there have been those times of interrupted service or change, have you developed ways to kind of, when you're without therapy, to get through not just a week, but longer term periods, because I think that's also helpful.
The only way I can right now, I can only think of like destructive ways. Like I can only think of like the bad ways
Yeah.
to get through.
Yeah,
Like
sadly.
Yeah.
the ways that it worked, but it wasn't ideal. Like I don't think my therapist now would be like, "No, Roy, that's not what we want to do these days." Definitely. Yeah, only like I can only think of like the self destructive ways that got me through. A lot of it, I think, comes down to boils down to like just avoiding your feelings. Like if I can't feel my feelings, then they can't hurt me, and then there's no reason to talk about my feelings because I'm avoiding them. And
I'll say that actually sounds for me very similar to just the masking that I kind of do at work or things when I have some mild autism issues and difficulty with certain amounts of social anxiety. But there is this sort of survival mode self. I don't know what to think of it, but I almost put myself in maintenance mode until I can go back to my circumstances or back to where I can be healthy. Does that echo for anyone else?
Yeah, I mean, like
Sure.
taking a maintenance routine and having like, a couple of years where I literally just kept my head down and just worked. It was just work, and like
Yeah.
I know it's unhealthy to become
Yeah.
a workaholic, but at the time I needed money really bad, so it was like, well, it's a win-win. If I work, I get paid, and if I get paid, I can pay bills, and if I pay bills, I can live. So I just thought that was the thing to do, and like driving around by myself all day, every day. Sometimes, if I was delivering in San Antonio, it'd be 45 minutes to an hour in between stops. And, it'd be finding
Sure.
either entire albums to get through, which for mental health, listen to an entire album every day. My God, press play, beginning to end. And it doesn't have to be your favorite album because you listen to that every day and you're going to get sick of that shit. But just take a record, beginning to end, or a podcast, or having conversations, reconnecting with people. Because if I can't talk to a therapist, it's not that I'm supplementing it with other people, but well, you have conversations with people, and it may not be the you know hey, saw some little kid holding his dad's hand the other day, and it really hurt both halves of my heart because my dad passed away, and I have partial custody of my son, so I don't get to go home to him when I open up the door after my shift, and him come running going, "Daddy!" I walk into my house to dead fucking air. So I thought about just driving off the bridge in the truck, but you can't do that. So you call your friends, and you're like, "Hi, buddy. What are you doing
Yeah.
today?" And then you try to act like you're really excited to get them excited. Then you listen to their day and hear what they're doing. They're excited to see you. And then you get that little spike of dopamine. And then they're like, "How's your day?" And you don't go, "Oh, abysmal." You're like, "I'm sweaty. But I'm on time for my next delivery. That's really fun. I'm at work."
Yeah.
And then, you go on with it as if everything's honky fucking dory. And, like little bits of the day when you can supplement those things. And, also, again, bringing it back to music is not only listening to it, but having a new experience every day, whether it's a whole song, whether it's a whole album, or a music video. To sometimes there's a song you love and you haven't seen the video, and then you watch the video and you're like, "Well, this has completely changed my experience now."
Yeah, I think music definitely. I mean, I really, 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 really hate driving. So, to because I've got claustrophobia, and to be stuck in a car in stop start traffic is horrifying. And I I've already told Roy, I was like, I'm not giving up my Sirius XM subscription. I was like, there's no way in hell that you're ever making me give up my Sirius, because I can't, like, not having Octane blasting in the car would, like, lead to murder on the road.
Shout outs to
That
Sirius
is my
XM.
zen.
Feel free to sponsor.
Yes, I love Sirius XM, my favorite station. And just being able to listen, and they get a lot of the new hits, not to sound like I'm advertising for them, but like, to hear the new music that's just released, and like, it gives you that kind of stimulation of like, oh, hey, this is cool. And like, I don't know, I like having that newness. And obviously no ads.
I was going to say the ad free part of it
So-
is pretty dope. It's like someone else curated a playlist for you, and you don't have to hear about AG1 in between
Exactly.
songs because whatever is in that
Yeah.
pond scum
I
can
mean-
fuck right off. It is $50 a diarrhea.
I'm-
Get out of here.
I mean, if I'm in a really good mood, I will like tell Android Auto, be like, play this artist for me, and then just
Yeah.
jam out. So it depends.
Something I think that is very interesting is an intersection of technology and community on this discussion, because I was thinking in my head, who would have been the person to speak with feeling very dissociated with life in the past, who was not a therapy, not a therapist, not a counselor. In some way, it's always community. It's family, it's friends, it's clergy in some cases. And I also thought, well, music being that therapeutic thing, if you're alone before the advent of obviously records and other recorded devices, you're unable to participate in music beyond that which you create yourself. How much in the modern era is just, in the past, music and counsel came from other people, came from community. Now it's yet another thing that is paid for, is credentialed, is professionalized. Do you all find that when you have a lack of community is when you are the most susceptible and need these replacements, the music, the actual therapy
100%.
sessions?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because the isolation,
Well,
you're left to your
and
own
I-
devices, you know?
I think sometimes, depending on if you find the right artist, you find that sense of community too. Because, like I suffered from, like, previous abuse. And so, like, artists that write songs about things like that I don't feel so alone. Like, like one of my favorite bands is Catch Your Breath, and they have a song "Shame on Me," and their lyrics are, when I close my eyes, I can see the home you built inside my mind, and I let it come to life. I let it set down roots where there was once a spine. Shame on me. And like, they stay with you because they shared an experience that I feel in my bones, and like they put words to how I was feeling, so I wasn't so alone. And I think music can be that way, can be that
Yeah.
community. And I also do want to say, in my previous career, I worked in mental health, and resources like NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness, like the classes and the support groups and stuff like that, I used to help run them, and just to be able to give back to other people who have mental health issues, like that always made me feel really special, and like made me kind of, see that we are stronger together, and that even though our diagnoses may change, we're all still people. And just to have that hour together to talk about what our struggles are, and to have someone who can relate to you. And they have programs for family members as well. So they were always a really good
That's awesome.
resource.
Do you mind spelling that out by the letters for those
Yeah.
listening?
It's NAMI, NAMI. Again, it's the National Alliance on Mental Illness.
And the website would
and
be
then-
nami.org.
Yep.
Awesome.
They're all over the country. They've got programs in pretty much every major county. So, and they do a lot of really good advocacy work and all sorts of good stuff. They're a great organization. I absolutely adore them. And then for anyone who needs it, the Suicide Prevention Lifeline is 988. I feel like that's a big one to, because you can talk, you can text, you can call.
They answer every time.
That's another really good yeah. That's another really good resource. And I love that, like, whenever I listen to Sirius, they always mention it and are like, hey, like, if you need help, like, here's this resource. So,
And I'll also mention it again at the end of this podcast episode for those of you still listening.
Yeah.
yeah.
I'll say something. The lack of community. For myself, I know my biggest issue is withdrawing from people. There are people on this podcast session who have watched me go through it before. It sucks because it's the thing you know you need to change most, but being your worst self and feeling the worst about yourself is when you least want to be around others, because you feel either insert your adjective here, whether you feel like you are too sad to be around people, or that you bring down the mood, or inflicting others with your condition. Let me tell you, the thing that I have to remind myself the most in life is that no matter how much you feel like you're shitty at something, no matter how much you feel like you're not good enough to do any damn thing, there is in your community, if it is a hobby or a musical endeavor or whatever that it gets people to form communities to do that thing, there are people within a 50-mile radius of you who would love for you to show up unannounced to the next meeting, practice, whatever, and have you play an instrument horribly, learn a card game badly, or get dunked on multiple times by someone shorter than you at the Y. Regardless, they will be so happy that you are there and just excited that there's some lifeblood in community and local activity. The amount of joy I see when I am a new face at a YMCA class and instructors like, oh, I haven't seen you at one of my classes before. It will make your day. What will also go to making your day better is if, while you are out at these places, you just find something that clearly the person you were in that room with or speaking with over the phone clearly values, and compliment them on that. I will remember, not a community event or anything, but just when I was feeling really crappy about myself and living in a one of those roachy apartments that you're not happy with in a rundown part of the city. There was right next to that apartment a McDonald's that I found myself at when I didn't have time and hated myself for it. But one day going through the drive-thru, a woman who had greeted me so many times, she was an older African-American woman who clearly had put a ton of effort into her hairstyle. And she had always been friendly enough, but always looked like she was going through the worst day of a normal person's life. And I just said, and thank you so much. And may I mention, I think you have the most lovely hair, and I appreciate the effort you put into that. She lit up, and for the time period, the next 6 months I was still living at that apartment and would go to that McDonald's, would always just Oh, and the young charmer, or something else if I would come through, and just in that little way, it felt like I wasn't being a consumer and feeling shitty about my consuming choices. I felt like I was just going to the local eatery and seeing someone I knew before I went home and went
And you know
throughout
she
my
looked
day.
forward to you coming
Because
through and
ultimately,
like
that
waited for
is
you to
what
be
it
there
is.
too.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I
But
mean,
I wish I had a better example of
That's
something.
great.
But just if you go to like a book meeting or something, and someone clearly put a ton of time into having a really interesting tie, let's say, or a huge hat or something at a formal gathering, clearly they want you to say something about it. Just do that thing, because you also do that subconsciously without realizing it on your day. And if we all got a little better at reading that about each other, we'd be much more polite and socialize in a better way. So, as an autistic who is trying to learn to do more social behaviors, that is my advice there.
I know whenever I wear my fancy Star Wars shirt, or I have a, it's a cats as Jedi, so they have like
Nice.
lightsabers and robes on. Yeah, whenever I wear that shirt, if no one says anything, I'm like, all right, it's still a cool shirt. But if someone says something like, oh my god, does my day get
It's the
infinitely
best.
better? And I get to come home and like, Katie, someone said something about my shirt.
They
It was
saw
so
it.
much
They
fun,
know.
and it's so cool. It's so gratifying. And yes, John, exactly. I can like, attest that 100% they want you to. Someone wants to say something about their whatever
Hmm.
they got going on. Jordan, you were talking about playing an album
Yeah.
when feeling down. You want to elaborate on that a
Yeah,
little
so
bit?
there's many different avenues you can take in that sense. Because say there's times when it's not even that you're having, like, say you're not crashing, you're not spiraling. There's times when I just feel alone. I'm in my house by myself. My partner's working. My son's with his mom at the time. I don't have a student or a gig, and I'm just here. And I've got my routines, and I've got stuff to clean and my chores and stuff. But just the dead air. There's times when I'll put on, say, "Time Out" by Dave Brubeck. It's got "Take Five," one of the best songs I've ever heard in my life. That takes me back to being a little kid. And there's a lot of things that when you have a recall of being a kid, it just reminds you of what it was like to genuinely be happy. Like you just woke up happy as fuck because when you're a kid you're just stoked, which is tight. Miss that. But hearing that album in its entirety always brings me back to being that little kid going to see my grandma. I'm with my dad, I'm with my sister, they're both happy, it's super fun. Grandma's doing her dance in the living room, she probably has golf on mute on TV because she's 80. um, but jazz is playing and she's rocking it, and I'll put that on, and now my son catches on and he'll just say, say we're having pizza or whatever, he'll go, "Daddy, can we listen to jazz?" And I know that means specifically he wants to hear the Time Out album, but listening to that in its entirety, that's one of those, it gives me comfort and it doesn't make me feel so alone because it reminds me of being in a room full of love. But there's also, say I have X amount of time to kill. I know I can put on one of my favorite records that's between 45 minutes and an hour. Industry standard for some reason is 45 minutes. But, Dream Theater exists. So you could press play and 4 songs later, it's been 2 hours. But, taking the time limit and seeing like, okay, yes, it's background noise, but I don't have to think about it. I just press play and it's on. And, say Dream Theater for an example. That's a cognizant, like, there's time signatures, there's James Labrie doing whatever noises he can make into a microphone that I just want to go ask him how and why. Usually why, but also how. Um, and then, like there's a lot of bass stuff that as a drummer I hear and it's entertaining to me. Like people like to go to art galleries, and I usually appreciate a quarter of the art gallery because most of it as visual art I don't understand. I know that's a me thing and it's not disrespectful. I just see stuff and go, huh, and keep walking. Where there's a lot of that in music as well. So I'll hear some little like blips on a bass guitar and it brings me back into the like, oh, whoa, hey, that was cool, that was cool. But then there's also some albums where, say I am spiraling, say it's not going well, say I'm not okay. I'll put on, say, like an album called It Comes in Waves. It's a concept album. It's one big long song. I've seen it performed live when I was also in a terrible place. So going to see it, being surrounded by people that were also clearly feeling the same thing, I'll listen to the album, or there's times when I'll go find a live set of it on YouTube and just sit and go back to that moment, and I'll have that connection, and I'll be able to feel like, the intro of it, where there's a sound clip of a lady singing, "I never thought I would see you again." And then, the song kicks in, and it's a metal album, so it's got all the yelling and the offensive drums and stuff. But there's the whole album being one big, it's called It Comes in Waves, but there's also a lot of peaks and valleys, and a lot of it just talking about how hard it is to just exist, how when you've been through so much and you are so hardened, it's hard to feel a lot of things, and how a lot of things you have to fight through that you didn't want, you still have to feel like, I know I didn't deserve this, but it happened, so what did I do to bring it upon myself, and how do I bounce back after that? And there's a lot of hurt in it, but there's also a lot of understanding in it, because I'm like, well, I didn't write this, I didn't play this, I didn't record this, I just pressed a button, and there's 5 dudes that wrote and recorded this, and they feel the same way I do, if not fucking worse. And I can hear that. And again, you go to the show or you watch the show on YouTube, and you're like, okay, well, I can absolutely empathize and sympathize with a lot of the hurt that you have going on, because like, I'm right there with it. And there's a lot of vocalists that'll say, hey, like, of course the guitar players are tuning, so they have to kill time and banter, right? But they'll still say, hey, if anybody's having a bad day, take it out here. If you're having a great day, I hope it's because you're here. While you're here, make a friend, have fun. This room is for you. This is a safe space. Just be yourself. This might be the only day this week that you get to enjoy yourself and be out. And going to a concert is the best way to go about it. And sometimes I don't get to go to a show for a while, which obviously I understand. I play a lot of gigs, but being on stage and being on the other side of the stage are two different things. But having a whole album to go through, sometimes it could be like Hybrid Theory. That's one of the best albums I've ever heard in my life. Like top 5 records, anytime I hear a song on that album, I'm not changing it. Unless I've heard it 4 times in a row, then I'm like, all right, what else we got? But, that's one of those like, hey, let me get a quick little blip of this is fun. And I put on Hybrid Theory. It's just, it's no hesitation. It's great. It's a good time. It's rocking. Sometimes you can be mad and it's still cool because Chester screams and stuff. And other times I'm just like, some of the riffs are nostalgic. It'll remind me when I learned how to push on a skateboard, because that's what was in my headphones attached to my CD player. Because back in the day, we fucking had those.
All right,
If-
Jordan, I
if I
gotta,
could-
I gotta
It's a trip.
ask. Sorry, John, go on.
If I can also make a brief piggyback suggestion,
Mhm.
I sometimes find that listening to music with lyrics distracts me too much from what I'm doing. Rather than doing, I mean, if you want to relive a soundtrack, that's fine. But I really suggest people listen to like a full classical work, like as just a suggestion, Gustav Holst's The Planet Suite. You will suddenly recognize there's so much music out there you've already heard before, and you just had no answer for, oh, that weird thing in the back of my head that was catchy and had a lot of instruments I hadn't heard before. I didn't know what it was, but it sounded cool. You will find so much of that if you just find
Mhm.
full classical works and give them a listen while you're doing something else, dishes, whatever. I find it's really nice and helps me to focus for certain activities, just as a supplemental. And also,
Absolutely,
if you
yes.
start to
And
like
it's always an
classical
experience
music, the
to go
great thing
to.
about that is, no matter what city you're in, there are people playing that music somewhere nearby you.
Hmm.
All right, so I got a question for you guys. What would be your, we'll call Mount Rushmore, so top 4 uh, pieces of music or albums that you listen to when you're feeling a certain type of way?
Yep.
Like albums or just artists?
Um, I'm going to go with albums because artists is way too broad. So either albums or
Composure. Well, I can't say composure.
whatever we would call the classical version
Collection,
of an
I
album.
guess. Yeah.
Collection like because like the whole Planet Suite, like you need all 7.
I'll. I don't know that I can rank them, but
No, not ranked.
I got a few.
Yeah.
The whole suite, which I mentioned, is one for me that I'll listen to a lot. I really find myself listening to Ben Folds' Songs for Silvermen. Just an album that was kind of the album of my undergraduate years, and when I first started experiencing depression, before being able to kind of name it, and before I was in counseling, that album did a lot of heavy lifting for me. It's hard to name a single Pink Floyd album. I go through a bunch of them in rotation for this, but either The Wall, Animals, Wish You Were Here, or Dark Side of the Moon for one of these slots, because the post the peak Roger Waters era for me is my favorite Floyd. And then for something that will just bring a smile to my face, listening to Yes, the Yes album, their very first one. Oh my God, does that one make me happy? So, especially some of the instrumental tracks. Hearing in a funny North British accent. This is a song called The Clap.
You're like, well, I guess I'm giggling now. You did your job, guys. Thanks for that.
Like, oh, I wonder. Okay, I think I get what this is. Yeah.
Solid.
Those in no particular order are 4 and or 7 choices.
Katie, you look ready.
No surprise, Nothing More would be one of my go-tos. Just because I can't really say any albums because I tend to create my own albums. Like I just create playlists of all the songs that I love and then I just throw that playlist on. So like I don't really listen to a lot in its entirety. I kind of pick and choose based on what my vibe is. But Nothing More is always one that I'm gonna go to for when I'm wanting to like bounce around and have a good time. I always put on Electric Callboy, always, and cannot wait to fucking see them tomorrow. So
Yeah,
excited.
we're going to see them tomorrow night. I'm pretty stoked. Yeah.
So they're a blast. When I'm kind of in a mood that like is heavy, I usually will put on Catch Your Breath. And like I guess for like albums that I listen to for their entirety, if I had to say 2 that I really have done that with, I would say probably Avenged Sevenfold's Nightmare, and then 3 Days Grace's 1X.
I feel like Avenged Sevenfold and 3 Days Grace had a co-headliner at one point in time back in the day. If not a co-headliner, they were both on like a huge festival. I remember there being Pink involved in 3 Days Grace stage.
Unfortunately, I have not seen 3 Days Grace yet, but I have seen Avenged Sevenfold
I've seen
once.
3 Days Grace at least twice. No disrespect, neither time did I go to see 3 Days Grace. Great show. But both times they were just on whatever the tour package I went to see, and they got done, and I was like, man, they got a lot of money in production. That was fun.
All right, so my top 4 albums are Meatloaf, Bat Out of Hell, System of a Down, Steelers album, the Hamilton soundtrack.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. And Mozart Requiem.
Requiem, absolutely.
I will say it is such an experience to sing any Requiem but Mozart
that's cool.
Requiem.
I just got goosebumps.
Especially if you've gotten to sing it properly with a full orchestra.
I feel like that's got to resonate in the hall just so gloriously.
Yes.
It's underrated just how much classical music also, by the way, itches the scratch, or scratches the itch, I should say, of if you're someone who needs your chest cavity to like reverberate to music, you can do that at a local opera near you. And when a human voice is doing that without amplification, it feels really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know where our opera is in this area. I know that we do have some.
Might
I
just be
don't know.
festivals. A lot of places they'll have like a seasonal festival
Yeah.
or something like that, but not a full time. Even St. Louis only has one year-round opera company.
So it's
and I
like
mean, that's a pretty large city.
so it's like one. So the troupe will do like a scene from this opera, a scene from this opera, a scene from this opera at a festival.
No, less so that. Although they might have like fundraiser nights where they'll do opera scenes for an evening.
Gotcha.
No, I mean like they'll have, like for example, in St. Louis area right now, Union Avenue Opera is an opera company. And they mostly are in the summer. They do usually 3 productions. Nowadays, they're actually doing 2 operas and 1 musical. They're doing Fiddler on the Roof, L'Elixir d'Amour, Elixir of Love, and Samson and Delilah by Camille Saint-Saëns. And that's all they do from a period of basically July to August. And they do that kind of 2-month schedule every year. Each season has 3 of these. They will also do some things in the off season, fundraisers, auditions, young artist stuff. But primarily just a couple months of the season that are kind of peak time for when no one else is doing anything kind of classical music related. It's their time of the year for that. And whether it's a part-time opera company or a local festival, you're likely to be able to find something in your neck of the woods.
We'll do it.
And
We'll have to do
it's
it.
amazing how talented some of the people doing things for what it amounts to near minimum wage when you think of all the hours of rehearsal and stuff and travel costs.
Wild.
Yeah.
I think if I had to narrow it down to 4 albums, I'd say starters would be Iowa by Slipknot, because I could be having a good day or a bad day, and that album has been there for me since I was like 11. And my first concert was Slipknot. The reason I play drums the way I do is because I saw Joey do the thing on the riser with the lights and the fucking rotating thing, and I was like, you hear it and you're excited because you're like, oh, it's crazy, but then it's also you're having a bad day, and there's a song that starts off with "You are wrong, fucked and overrated. I think I'm gonna be sick and it's your fault." And when you're 11, you're like, "Whoa, that guy's mad." And then you get in your 20s and you're like, "Oh, hey, I feel that." And you get in your 30s and you're like, "Ooh, that's existential." That one for sure. Hybrid Theory. I will die on my fucking hill that is one of the best albums in the history of ever. Dirt by Alice in Chains, because I fucking love Alice in Chains, and Dirt is one of those masterpieces that you just press play and we're good. Also, when you're super depressive and you want to listen to someone that feels worse than you, it's lame. And then the Hypnotized Mesmerized combo by System of a Down, because that is such a ride in itself, but I think Hypnotize came out first, if I'm not mistaken. Um, and that was the summer when my living situation from one house to another was not the best for a boy that age, and um, just a lot of lonely nights and a lot of hardships you should not experience at 13 years old, and a lot of fear that you should not know at that age. And that album was one of the only things I had in my backpack, and I would just put it on repeat, whether I was skating or sitting and waiting on something or someone or whatever it was. Sometimes I was in a car and I'd listen to it and just try to escape the people that were around me in that car. But that specifically, the Mesmerize album is near and dear to me, but the Mesmerize Hypnotize combo, the two of them, because I think they came out in the same year, if not within a year of each other. That's another one where you can just roll with it. I have my own personal associations, but it's one that you just, if you want to put on, there's laughs, there's crying, there's happy, there's mad, there's just some really good black metal riffs in there. Like, it's just musically, it's System of a Down. It's all over the place. And that was, I know, later in their career and on the insanely creative end of things, but it gave us BYOB. And if you hear that song and you don't feel anything, we have to talk one-on-one, because I'm going to correct you
The
on that.
only reason I didn't choose Mesmerize when Hypnotize is because I considered it two albums, and I was trying to stay true to my original prompt. But yeah, if I'm allowed, then yes, I would go to those two over Steal This Album. But yeah,
Although Steal This album has
yeah,
and that is just beautiful in itself.
fun fact: Hypnotize is the last album they released in 2005. It's the last one they released in 2005.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yep. Crazy.
Yeah. How do you guys? What's something that brings you joy? Endless joy. Doesn't matter what it is.
Fingerboarding
Awesome.
every time.
Pets.
Yeah.
Whether they're friends' pets or my parakeets. They can be annoying too, but an endless source of joy and amusement to watch a living thing learn and interact with me and desperately want to be my little friend.
Yep.
That feels great.
It really does. And even after I get mad at the cats for scratching the crap out of the door jamb that I'm gonna either
As they
have
do.
to replace or fix, as and then okay, here come and it's the best. It's the best feeling. And
Yeah.
I'm jealous that Katie has a cat and I don't have any cats.
Hi, Tazzy boy. Yeah.
Well, guys,
Taz cuddles are the best cuddles.
he does give good cuddles. Well, guys, today was very deep. It was very powerful. It was very emotional. I feel like I learned a lot more about all three of you. For a second, I thought this was going to be another couples counseling episode between Katie and I. But
Well, if you kept fucking with the microphone a little
Yeah,
longer, it might have
yeah,
turned that way,
exactly.
brother.
but I just want to say that I love all of you very dearly and very, very grateful
I love you guys
to
too.
have you guys
Love you.
on the
Love you.
podcast and in my life.
That was awesome.
All right, so two quick shout outs. One to NAMI, that is NAMI.org, the National Association for Mental Illness. Is that correct?
Alliance on
Excuse
Mental
me.
Illness.
Excuse me, National Alliance on Mental Illness. And now you can.
That's the
yeah,
one.
And the other one is the suicide hotline, which is 988. I think I speak for all of us when I say, if you're feeling a certain type of way, get help. Reach out to
Yeah.
someone. Reach out to a trusted friend, a family member. Reach out to a mental health professional.
Yeah. Always remember your life matters.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Every day.
Every day. Every day matters. You matter.
Be well, take time for yourself, hydrate, and hold on to the next time we get to see you.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Hey, are you still listening? Thank you so much for closing out the show. If you could do me a small favor and listen to these few ads after the conclusion of this recording, it would mean a lot to me. Thank you and have a good one. See you next time.